Good evening. Today is June 18th, 2018. I'm Nathan Johnson. Welcome to another episode of Veterans Voices. Tonight's theme is scams targeting veterans, and we'll be speaking with Postal Inspector's Office, the Institute on Aging, and a local veteran will share his story. I'm grateful to be joined by my co-host, Kevin Graves.
Thank you, Nathan. It's good to be here again this evening.
Good to have
We're
you
going
back.
to start. We're going to start the show this evening with a special memory of a member of the Gold Star community. Gold Star mother Beverly Balsley passed away last week. Her son, Specialist Michael Balsley, gave his life for his country on 25 January 07. Bev was a dynamic person and gave the best hugs in the Bay Area. Bev, we will miss you.
Colonel Jones, this is the Department of Veterans Affairs calling to update your Social Security number.
Mrs. Sanchez, hello. I'm calling about offering cash payments for your VA
Veterans
benefits.
like you are now eligible for some amazing real estate opportunities.
I'm a financial advisor and would like to take a moment to review your
I work for a
portfolio.
military charity, and we are seeking donations from veterans just like
The
you.
VA calling. We'd like to verify your information on file.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us tonight for our 47th episode of Veterans Voices. The purpose of our program is to connect veterans and their families with resources and benefits. If you're at home watching and we want you to join our discussion, please feel free to call us right now at 925-313-1170. We need to have this discussion with you tonight. Our phone lines are open and we're excited to take your calls. You can also send us an email at veteransvoices@contracostatv.org or connect with us on Facebook at Veterans Voices 1.
Before we get started, we'd like to take a moment to recognize the service of local U.S. Army veteran Rocky Torres. Rocky served in the 82nd Airborne from 1982 to 1986 and deployed in support of Operation Urgent Fury in Grenada in 1983. He currently serves as the scheduling coordinator at Mobility Matters. Thank you, Rocky, for allowing us to display your shadow box on our set tonight.
Now we would like to welcome local postal inspectors Jeff Fitch and Stephen Bassick to the show. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Now, before we start talking about scams, tell us a little bit about yourselves. Stephen?
My name is Steve Bassick, as you already introduced me. Postal inspector, been a postal inspector for 20 years. Did everything from fraud to narcotics. Now I'm working security. Before that, I was an officer in the Navy.
A naval aviator, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Absolutely. Jeff?
Been a postal inspector about 24 years, and I've worked mail theft, security, non-mailable or dangerous items.
Well, thank you for your service as well, public service. So we want to talk about scams tonight. And scams don't just affect the veteran population, they can affect everyone. So let's start off by giving people a sense and understanding, maybe an idea of what scams are like. I know we maybe have all heard about someone being scammed, but when someone tries to scam us, what might they try to do first?
They're just trying to get their hands on your money.
Okay.
They'll use technology, they'll be using all kinds of deception. They're just going to be trying to get their hands on your money.
Okay. And where do these scams typically come from? Are these something that come from somewhere overseas, or could they be right here in our own community?
Both. They can come from your internet. You can get a scam from an email, or you can get a scam via the mail. That was the more traditional stuff that used to come from the mail, your lottery scams. It's progressed since then. Now it's more into your telemarketing. A lot of the scams go through telemarketing, your investment scams, your Jamaican scams, we call them. You've won money, you've won the lottery, these type of things.
But there's always a cost. I mean, anytime somebody's telling you you've won something, but it's going to cost you something to get it, that would be the first sign that there's a problem there, correct?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Something we like to say is if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Take that extra look when you've received something either by phone, by computer, or by email.
And no matter how legitimate it appears, if if you have any questions about it, you should follow up with the authorities.
Absolutely. There's a number of scams where the bad guys try to blend in, make things look legitimate. In fact, one of the veteran scams that we talk about in one of our publications is a government agency contacting you, wanting you to update your files, asking you for personal information so they can get something in order for you.
Now, what kind of personal information are they after?
Just anything. They want your date of birth,
Okay.
your social security number, your mother's maiden name, and then just any type of personal identifiers.
What can they do with that information? If they have my social security number, my date of birth, my mother's maiden name, what potentially could they do to scam me?
A lot of these scams go hand in hand with identity theft.
Okay.
Of course, identity theft comes with having to correct your own or repair your own credit, so that is the damage to the victim. But not only that, you have you become on it's very easy to become on a suckers list, which is what they call them. Your name will get sold to somebody else, where you'll be pitched another scam. You think, okay, I beat this scam. All of a sudden, you'll be pitched something else. These scams get sold from, these lists get sold from person to person. Come from every different direction.
So I want to remind our audience tonight that we're talking about scams and how they affect the veteran population. And we're going to get into this detail a little bit more, a small picture later on in the show. And actually here in a little bit, we're going to listen to some audio of some real scams that our associate producers encountered. But are these scams affecting a particular portion of the population in terms of age? Are they looking for people that just live in wealthy, affluent communities, or could anyone potentially be a victim of a scam?
It could be anyone. It's based on the imagination of the bad guy.
Okay, okay. And we say guys, but are scam artists, do they tend to be different demographics? Are they young people, old people, men, women? Is there a specific profile that we have to be aware of?
No, it can be just anything. It's based on, again, the imagination of the person perpetrating the scam, whether they be men, women, age groups for the suspects. It runs the whole gamut.
Okay, give us a little scenario here, real quick, a quick little snippet of a recent scam that you ran into in your
A
work.
personal scam that I had, I used to be out in Guam, and also, as I said, I was a veteran. I used to bike a lot. I had an email that came through from one of my friends saying he was in trouble. He had been arrested in a foreign country. I knew he had traveled a lot with his biking. He needed money. He didn't want to be embarrassed by it, right? They'll try to isolate that, and they say the only way it can be connected is through the internet. Just send me money. That's all I need.
Okay.
And, so this is a very common scam that's gone out
Very
there.
good. Okay, so we're going to listen to some real audio files that our associate producers had contact them through the phone. So the first one's a robot file that we're going to listen to. Let's play that file.
Executed by the U.S. Treasury. Intending your serious attention towards this matter, ignoring this will be an intentional second attempt to avoid initial appearance before a magistrate judge or a grand jury for a federal criminal offense. Now, this is the final attempt to reach you. To know your final case number and to speak to a federal agent, call back on 202-280-7750. I repeat, it is 202-280-7750. Thank you.
Sounds pretty real. Sounds pretty threatening. Obviously a fake voice, though. So now we're going to listen to an audio file that I think maybe is a little bit more authentic. It actually sounds like it came from a person who called one of our associate producers. So let's listen to this second audio file.
Hello, this is Robert with DDS Delivery Service with an urgent message for Ryan Berg in reference to a signature required and a courtesy call to schedule a time for a delivery. Please contact the issuing office as soon as possible at their toll-free number 855-868-6116. Once again, 855-868-6116 with the reference number 96637. Thank you and have a good day.
So we just gave our audience a little bit of an idea of what a scam sounds like. What's your take on the
Well,
files?
again, for something like that, just be very vigilant, very careful about responding. You don't want to get on any type of list that Steve was talking about. The bad guys will sell the list if you respond. The second thing is the bad guys won't stop. That we've worked with other agencies doing these types of presentations, and the bad guys will call 911 and ask for a welfare check. They've got you on the phone, even though they might be in another state or another country. They've got police officers actually walking up to your front door. So the links that these guys will go to, it's just based on their imagination and the technology they got in front of them.
And along those same lines, I work for the state of California, for the California Department of Veterans Affairs, and we have very tight security on our internet, as you can imagine, as you guys do at the federal level and at the county level. But yet I got an email the other day that had a FedEx stamp on it that said there's a package waiting for me and they needed to verify my identity in order to give me the package. It was going to be returned if I didn't. And this had gotten through several firewalls to get to me. So these people are good and persistent. And I, of course, turned that over to our IT department and to our internet security department, and then they followed up with that. But it had a FedEx, it was a FedEx logo on the package. But I've just learned not to respond to anything like that that comes across.
Absolutely.
So they may use real logos, they may use real sounding threats, like this is the IRS, and they use the term magistrate, judge, or grand jury. So very, very intimidating, threatening terms. We have a question here, and thank you. I want to, again, invite our audience to be a part of this conversation. Maybe you have been a victim of a scam, or maybe you're aware of a scam that's out there today. Tell us about it. Call in, leave us a message on Facebook. And we have a question here. If I suspect someone might try to scam me, who do I call first? The local police or the Postal Service?
You guys can answer that because there's different reasons to call different departments probably, huh?
There's a number of different agencies, that the Justice Department, the FBI, postal inspectors, state agencies, district attorney's offices, attorney general's offices, but make a report, even if it's an informational report. A lot of times we share that information. So if you make it with one agency, that will get shared with other agencies.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You can develop a pattern that way and see who's being targeted and develop your defense that way, I guess, huh?
The Federal Trade Commission actually has a centralized website. They share a lot of this information back and forth. So that actually can be a central website to go as the FTC.
FTC, okay. Very good.
So in today's time of technology, do you think that scammers have more access to the victims, or do you think that use of technology gives law enforcement agencies more of an advantage?
I think it's changed the game. That the mail fraud statute was actually passed right after the Civil War, and what we like to say is the scams are the same, the technology has changed. So the bad guys are using technology, law enforcement is. We just need people out there and veterans to be vigilant.
One thing the internet has done is made people's houses more available. Their description of their houses. A lot of times these will be used in scams. You'll do a Google search, do a Google map. They'll say, I know it's you because I know your house, and they'll describe your house. This is some of the breakdowns where scams become more effective because they can use that those Google mapping. There's also other things besides Google Maps, but there's mapping resources on the internet.
Yeah.
Well, we will have you guys back to talk about with us a little later in the show. Right now, we'll be right back with guests Brian Vargas and Shauna Reeves to discuss what their organizations are doing to educate people about scams targeting veterans. Wait. Okay.
Now we would like to welcome Brian Vargas and Shauna Reeves to the show. Welcome, guys.
Good to have you guys on the show. Shauna, tell us a little bit about the organization you work for and what you're doing to try to make veterans aware of the scams that are out there.
So I work for the Institute on Aging. I'm the director of elder abuse prevention. And part of that program now includes another project called the Veterans Benefits Protection Project. The idea behind that project was actually a partnership with Adult Protective Services, the Department of Insurance, the Attorney General's Office, and others, is to make veterans and their families aware of veterans scams, particularly scams that target elders who are looking for whether they might qualify for benefits. And then also to direct those elders who may have already been scammed to resources that are available to them. And then for those veterans who have not yet been scammed but are interested in their benefits, trying to get them to the correct resource, which in almost 100% of cases is the County Veteran Service Office.
Speaking of the County Veteran Service Office, Brian, that you've been on the show before, but you're on again. Welcome back.
Hey,
and this is a new role for you, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I served in Iraq 06, 07, and since that time, kind of spent a journey getting here to helping vets, and that journey has brought me to your office, downstairs, the County Veteran Service Office, where we put together, largely inspired by the Institute on Aging and as well as Nathan's drive to kind of help the veterans in Contra, Costa County, the Senior Veterans Benefits Project, which is kind of educating and going out into the community and talking to veterans that are at assisted living communities or talking to their staff members that are in on the nurses department and stuff. Yeah, just letting veterans know that there's a way to, there's accurate benefits out there and there's a way to get those without being scammed.
Good. So, okay, so the last segment we talked about what a scam looks like, sounds like, you know, who they target, where they come from. Let's narrow it down a little bit more. Let's start talking about some of the specific veterans benefits programs that some of these agencies or organizations or individuals target veterans for. So give us an idea, Brian, of what programs out there might scam artists be approaching veterans about?
So the VA has the disability pension program, which portion of that there's a special monthly pension, which is there's an aid and attendance benefit, and a lot of times that aid and attendance benefit gets twisted and turned, and a lot of scammers pitch it in a way where 100% of your stay at an assisted living facility will be paid for because you served, you earned. Unfortunately, the disability pension program isn't necessarily, it's based on, it's income based, right? So it's based on assets and it's based on monthly income.
So disability pension is a monetary benefit. So a veteran can receive money from the VA, and it has certain qualifications that the veteran
has to meet. It's a needs-based program.
It is a needs-based program. Yeah, it's geographically based on depending on the location of the veterans.
So where does this come into a scam? How could you take a great benefit like disability pension, a veteran who served honorably, and introduce someone who's trying to take advantage of that?
Because it's a program for low wealth veterans, what the scammers have managed to do is to tell veterans who do have wealth that they also qualify for the pension benefit. See, I also conflate the two. What they'll do is they'll tell the elder that they need to kind of disappear whatever wealth that they do have by putting their money into usually a deferred annuity or into an irrevocable living trust, so that the money looks like it's no longer there, even though it was just moved. And then the elder sometimes will qualify for the benefit, sometimes won't, sometimes will get into big trouble with the VA. It's not a good thing to do with your money. You might need it down the road for care. You might want to qualify for Medicaid at some point, and it might not, you might not be able to. So it can get you into a real mess. But that's basically what they're doing.
And that mess tends to be a long-term mess. In other words, with the back pay, the interest, all those things that you received can cause you tremendous stress later on in your life when you have to pay that back because or they take all your money, so you have no money to live on to pay back, which you fraudulently, maybe didn't know fraudulently took at the time, but that you were led on to believe was okay.
Right, which is really unfortunate with the irrevocable trust that they have going out there, is that the veterans can't access that when they really need it, when they're in a time of care, when they're at that point where they can no longer care for themselves, which is something that, it's unfortunate, something that veterans shouldn't have to go through.
So these veterans are typically elderly age veterans, maybe our World War II, Korean War veterans, so they're in their 80s or 90s. They're living in some type of facility where they're receiving care. But who are the people that are scamming? Who are these people that are coming and selling these products to the veterans, and how are they presenting themselves to get through that door to make themselves seem like a credible source?
So they'll call themselves volunteers, or they'll call themselves veterans experts, friends of veterans. Sometimes they'll say that they're retired county veteran service officers. But by and large, they're one of two different professions, insurance agents or attorneys. And sometimes they're both. And sometimes they can be unaffiliated volunteers, but usually that's what's going on.
I'm smiling only because I heard that exact same story presented to a group of veterans in San Jose by an attorney. And literally was recommending that these people hide their money.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in the back of the room as a state employee saying, this isn't right,
Yeah.
you know, and it's amazing how bold they can be and how, and you tend to believe somebody that at least calls themselves an attorney, right? Nobody checks what the business card is. If it says it on their business card, they believe it. But they have authority and can be very convincing.
Right.
Now, Brian, you recently passed a national accreditation exam.
Congratulations. Woo.
Do these people, these volunteers, do they have the right to help veterans file claims?
They cannot charge. A veteran cannot be charged to. It's free to file a claim with the VA up until a certain point later on in the process when it comes to. Largely with the pension program, you're not going to be charging having to pay any money.
It's illegal to charge.
illegal
So
to
someone,
charge.
someone cannot charge a fee to help someone apply for a benefit.
Looking poor on paper, it's not a good thing, and a lot of times it just gets twisted and turns. And veterans, I deserve this because I served, and I can't afford it. A lot of times, the adult children are now with their kids. They're trying to figure out how can I pay for mom and dad in their care, which just kind of further compounds and stresses the issue out.
So what are your programs doing to fight against this? How are you getting involved?
So largely through public awareness. We also like to tell people never pay to have your someone help you with your application. Usually though, these scammers don't charge because of the products that they sell. They come with very high commissions for them. So they usually do the work for free. So we tell people about that. We tell them about the local county veteran service office, and then we tell them that there is help available for them should they be scammed. But really the idea is to prevent that from happening in the first place.
Okay.
And there is ways checking accreditation online that can be provided for the resources on Veterans Voices here, where anyone can go on there and find out if this person's actually accredited with the National Veteran Service Organization or lawyers and whatnot. So
Real quickly, we only have about a minute left. What are you doing, Brian, specifically to?
we're going out there and educating. Sorry.
Okay, where are you going?
We're going out, largely it's out to assisted living facilities, care communities, going out there and just talking with veterans, letting them know that there's a legitimate and credible resource that they can go to and ask for help and talk to them. But
I imagine you're getting good cooperation from the assisted living facilities and large, aren't you, that are happy to have you in there to give them good advice?
There are. A lot of times I come in there, I have to really pitch myself so I don't look like I'm a scammer stepping in there. Which is kind of.
You look just like
yeah,
that.
I'm like, so, you know, and I start with just a personal story. Let them know I'm a veteran and I'm here working with the county agency, and I'm not selling anything. We're just here to help, so.
Very good.
Well, I'm glad we had a chance to talk about this. This has been something I think very, very near and dear to the heart of our office in trying to eradicate pension poachers from Contra Costa County. And the laws don't allow us to just simply kick them out, but what we hope to do is to make contact with any care facility in the county where we can come in, educate your residents about the very important VA benefits that are available and how Contra Costa County Veteran Service Office can help that veteran without selling them on a subsequent benefit or program. We wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about next month's show. In July, we'll be talking about marijuana use in the veteran community. We'll speak with veterans, mental health professionals, and others inviting multiple perspectives so that we can gain a better understanding of this issue. It is sure to be an energized conversation, so please tune in and join us next month. When we come back, we'll get the chance to hear the experiences of U.S. Army veteran Justin Kearns. But first, this brief video of Ryan Berg at VA Martinez, who had a chance to speak with veterans on scams. Stay tuned.
Have you ever been targeted for a scam?
Yes, I have.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, most of it I see them on Facebook, phone calls, and they targeted a lot of seniors and also the young ones. I know I got caught one time that I thought I was helping a charity. And they asked me for money, and I was dumb enough to send it, and then I found out it was a scam. So now I have to be very careful with people that calls me on everything, is because a lot of them was really hitting off on seniors, veterans, and it is really hard because you don't know who the people you're talking to now. And it is bad. It is really bad nowadays that people are scamming other people, especially with, without any family. They're alone, and they just trigger everyone. And this is all over the place. It's not just in the U.S. So I'm really scared that most of us are being targeted by other people just to have, just to get some money. It is tough.
I've been targeted before, like little Facebook scams.
Okay, what does a Facebook scam look like?
Just people hit you up for your personal information, trying to use the military as kind of an in to get your personal info, saying that they know someone in the military or they know you personally through, a mutual friend.
I have been targeted for scams. Unfortunately, I haven't actually succumbed to them. I have actually, the Nigerian scams and all that. People call up. I've had even a police officer ask me for my Social Security one time on a traffic stop and said no. So as far as security, you want to know about security? I was in the OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, breach when they got a lot of veterans' Social Security numbers about 3 years ago when I was doing my non-paid work experience at the Oakland VA. And so it was in that they had to pay for identity theft protection for 2 years or 3 years, I think it was. It really kind of heightened my awareness about it. So today, as a preventative measure or protection, because I know it's a nightmare if you wind up getting your identity stolen, I use a software program called LastPass. And it's an automatic software. It's actually free, and it plugs right in. It's a plug into your browser. I use it with Firefox, and it stores every single password that you generate, and so you don't have to remember your passwords anymore, which is just, it's heaven. It's very much.
It was when I was refinancing my home, and I was doing a medical treatment, sort of a chemotherapy, and I told it to the people who would help me refinance, and they just took advantage of it.
Have you ever been targeted or the victim of a scam as a military veteran?
No, I haven't, not yet.
Okay. Not yet.
Not yet.
Hopefully never. Have you ever heard about scams directed at the veteran community?
Yeah, veterans and aged, the elderly. Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Have you ever been the victim of a scam or been targeted?
Not as a veteran. I mean, computer scams and stuff like that, but that's it.
What kind of computer scam was that?
Somebody called and said they was with Windows and they wanted on my computer. I told them go fly a kite.
Yeah. There's a lot of them out there.
What are they?
Mostly on the computer. And people saying they're promoting companies, they're promoting veterans as ways to help their families, and they're not.
Welcome back. Now we'd like to welcome Justin Kearns to the show. Welcome, Justin.
Hey, Justin. Good to have you on the show.
Excellent. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself before we start talking about your story.
Well, I spent 10 years in the U.S. Army between the infantry and aviation. I did 1 tour in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq, and went through a couple of careers when I got out. Now I'm studying nursing at Cal State East Bay.
Appreciate your service.
Thank you.
So you have an interesting story related to use of your GI Bill benefits. So start us from the beginning. You said you had a couple careers after the military. What were you doing before you got involved in school?
Yeah, well, I was doing construction for a little while, and then I got into management with a grocery store. I was working about 60 hours a week, but I still needed a degree in order to further my career. I saw all the ads on TV, online for a for-profit college, and I figured, hey, I can get a bachelor's degree in just a matter of a year and a half. Even if it's not the best degree, at least it'll be something.
How did these ads grab you? Because here you were working hard in a career, but you were looking for an opportunity to advance. What did these ads do to say, hey, look, Justin, this is that opportunity to get that promotion?
So the big thing was time. Obviously, working those hours, there's no way that I could go to community college. Even doing night classes, it's going to be really difficult. And the shortened period of time mixed with Yeah,
The flexibility.
The flexibility.
Right, being able to work it into your work schedule.
Right, it made it really easy. And they also reach out to veterans. They have essentially a guaranteed revenue source.
Exactly.
You don't have to apply for a loan. You don't have to do anything like that. So we appeal to them.
So you watched the commercial, somehow convinced yourself saying, this is it, I'm going to go for this. So how did you follow up with them, and where did it go from there?
So I talked to them, and they had really attentive people when I walked into the campus that really impressed me. They seemed to be relatively knowledgeable about the GI Bill benefits. I ended up signing up with them, started taking classes, and I started running into problems right away. The curriculum was rudimentary at best. And that's one of the problems with some of these schools, is that they really aren't teaching you anything. So when you graduate, the degree has essentially no value. It's not a reputable degree. And when you try to bring up issues that come up, especially when it comes to your benefits, those people that were very attentive at the beginning, they all of a sudden disappear. Once they've already gotten your business, you're pretty much stuck in there. You've already started using benefits. Those are going away. Nobody's going to, you can't even transfer these units to a community college. So you're essentially stuck at that point. They've gotten you, and they don't need to provide further service.
And none of that information is given to you up front. And they're the experts, you're not. You're coming to them, looking to them for help, for advice, for guidance. That's why they call them guidance counselors. And they're not giving you that information, is that correct?
Exactly. And I understood some of this coming in, and unfortunately what happened is the VA got wise to the fact that they're not really able to place people. A lot of the statistics that they were putting out were simply fabricated. So eventually, there was no more funding. I couldn't use my GI Bill benefits. The school was actually convincing people to take out loans despite this. Fortunately, they were closed down, so that particular college can't continue to do this. But essentially, a lot of veterans and a lot of non-veterans were left with no recourse.
And I want to say that we're not trying to paint all colleges, whether they be for-profit or non-profit, internet colleges, as well as brick and mortar with a broad brush. What we're trying to do is say, use your due diligence. There's organizations you can call. You can call the state of California and find out, because the state has the authority to approve colleges and the way they use their GI Bills. Call your local county veteran service office. See what they know about colleges that you want to sign up for. Sometimes it's necessary for you to use that type of a flexible schedule. We're not trying to say don't do that, but use due diligence when you're doing that. So when you're finished with your 39 months, you actually have a degree that you can use and go out and get a job with.
That is a really good point. Obviously, you can go out and get a job with some of these degrees, especially some of the technical colleges. The thing is, find the job that you want and talk to those hiring managers and find out if this degree actually means anything to them. That's pretty much the only way that you're going to ensure that the career that you want is going to be waiting at the end of that pathway. So, I mean, right now I'm receiving benefits under Voc Rehab. And what they do is they make you actually plan out all of that. They make you show that this course that you're taking is going to result in a career. So, very good point. Talking to the veteran service officers, they can really point you in that direction.
And if a school doesn't have a veteran resource center and doesn't have counselors that are helping you put your program together, you need to be aware of that. You need to be very cautious of a school that's not providing you with a counselor that's going to tell you how to reach that end game.
Well, even if they do, you want to reach outside of that school as
Very
well.
good.
The school can give you a lot of information. They're, especially the ones that are more of a scam, they're trained to sell you on it. So reaching out to that veteran service office, or even reaching out to a career counselor, reaching out even to the community college, you'll find people that will talk to you.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Even go to a public college where you know they're going to give you the right information, just to get the information is not necessarily a bad idea.
Exactly.
So eventually this school was shut down.
Yes.
And were you able to finish your degree program there?
No, I wasn't able to finish there. And then when I went to the community college, none of the courses I had taken transferred over at all, even the math courses.
And what was the reason for them not being transferable?
The curriculum did not meet the standard of the community college. And then also, when I went to the state university, obviously they weren't accepting units either.
So part of, and within the states have their own regulatory requirements.
Exactly.
And if you're going to a school that's based out of Maryland in California, you may run into some problems.
Right, so you need to look at the accreditation of the school.
There you go.
Did you lose any of your GI Bill benefits by the closure of this school? Obviously, you lost time,
Yes.
and you had to redo those credits at another university. But did you lose a portion of your entitlement to the GI Bill as well?
So I really lucked out in the fact that I was accepted for voc rehab benefits after this happened. So they're taking me through my bachelor's degree for nursing. However, a lot of the veterans that were purely using GI Bill benefits, people who aren't rated, disability rated through the VA.
Yeah, a portion of their 36-month entitlement is gone.
It's completely gone. The VA is not going to give that back to you. So, you know, you can say as much as you want about how low people who prey on veterans are. At the end of the day, we have to look out for ourselves and we have to look out for each other. Because just as you said, those benefits do not come back, those consequences do not go away.
So a young veteran's out there today, and they're working 60 hours just like you said you were, and they're looking at one of these opportunities to advance in their career by getting a bachelor's degree. And what would you say to them when they see that TV commercial come on, or they get that mailer, or they drive by that campus and have that conversation with that college recruiter? What would you say to them to keep them from falling into that same pitfall that you fell into?
I would say do your homework.
Okay.
The big thing is, as I said, talk to the hiring managers where you want to work. See if this degree is actually, or degree or certificate, whatever you're going for.
The college itself, is it a legitimate college? Does the employer know about it?
Exactly. And if they don't, that should be the end of the conversation right there. Talk to people who have gone to the school. Don't look at reports on websites. They use search engine optimization to make sure that the good reviews pop out on top. So make sure you're talking to people who have actually attended the school, find out what their experiences are, and
not only during school, but did they then get some type of career opportunity afterwards? Did they get value for in their education?
Exactly, and make sure those experiences and what they were going for matches up with what you're trying to do.
Very good.
Well, Justin, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your experience with our audience, because they need to hear it from you.
Yep. Exactly.
We can talk about it, but when you hear it, from somebody that's courageous enough to come out here and talk about it, we really appreciate you being on the show with us tonight. Thank you for sharing your experience.
Thanks for bringing me.
Stay with us. We'll be right back after this, a Veterans Voice segment where Stephen Burchek had a chance to sit down with Elizabeth Freitas, a veteran and dietitian who tells us about herself and how to eat what we want while staying healthy.
Welcome. I'm Steve Burchik here, and the Veterans Voice. This is called a Veterans Voice segment, and our guest today is veteran Elizabeth Freitas, and Elizabeth is a dietetic technician. Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about your service, what branch you served in, and what did you do?
Yes. I had served in the United States Army for 4 years, 2007 to 2011. And I served particularly as a 92 Golf, a food service specialist, assigned to Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas.
And what did you do while you were there?
Yeah, well, I had a particular circumstance. Because I came in with a professional certificate in pastry arts, I had a professional skill. And very unusually, I was assigned to air defense. Apparently, a lot of the generals and colonels that are in air defense, they have a little more time to throw parties and breakfast meetings and such. So part of my time, not just working in the dining facility, in the mess halls, it was also where I was helping set up and produce buffet presentations.
What is your current profession, and how did you train for it?
Yeah. I am currently credentialed as a dietetic technician through the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. It's the national organization that credentials both dietetic technicians and registered dietitians. And basically what I do is that I assist the registered dietitian. I perform any kind of duties involved with healthy eating habits, with basic nutrition education, and helping out patients that have been assigned specific meal plans where the dietitian recommends certain foods. I go ahead and I help out with finding other kinds of foods that patient may be interested in.
Well, that's great. I understand you also volunteer with a local veterans group. Can you describe what you do with that group?
Yes, yes. I volunteer with American Legion. particularly the post that I am a member of in Post 237 in Pleasanton, and I am appointed the Veteran Service Officer. What I do is that I try and help veterans that are looking for different VA benefits that they may be eligible for, and also different kinds of benefits and services that may be available in our community outside of the VA. Since I'm not an accredited VSO, I wouldn't be able to sign off on the papers, but that's where my job is very important, that I find the people that these veterans can go ahead and connect with, to be able to get the paperwork signed through, get it turned in, being able to get the ball rolling.
I think it's great that you volunteer your time to do that to help veterans. So what is memory care, and how can families prepare to assist someone?
Yeah, memory care has to do as far as with dementia and related brain diseases. It is something that, is able to be physically diagnosed. There are tests to be able to find out if someone is progressing towards dementia. If they're at risk, there are certain signs, certain symptoms that may come up. There's also given risk factors and such. Not every person that is at risk for dementia may come down with it. But what my role ends up being as far as with memory care in helping veterans and also helping families is that there are different ways that you can go ahead and be able to set yourself up now to be able to have success later on. Because the nice thing as far as with good nutrition and healthy eating patterns is that if you get in the habit now, they end up becoming a part of your habits, a part in your lifestyle all throughout the progress of your life. And then when something does come down, such as dementia, it's where you already have some of those habits built in. And so it makes it easier to then be able to work with your doctor, to be able to work with a registered dietitian and find out how to implement your particular care.
Can you tell us about any experiences with older veterans and their relationships with food?
Yeah, it's something that I actually found was a little bit in relation to some of the volunteering that I've done with hospice patients, both veterans and non-veterans. It's also something that I found that was kind of in connection with my service years when I was in the dining facility. A lot of older veterans, it's where, it's the same as far as for everybody. You tend to gravitate towards the foods that you're familiar with. Those are kind of like your comfort foods. With older veterans, it still surprises me to this day. They love SOS, and yet they didn't like it when they were in the service. They complained about it then, but they're willing to go ahead and eat it now, and in other cases, they tend to look back at some of the foods that they ate, when they were on the Navy ship, when they were out at a given Army post, when they were out in the field and they were given field food. There's certain foods that just end up keep popping up again and again. And so sometimes, those are the foods that, they're going to continue going on to, because they have good memories about it.
What are the major health risks of poor nutrition?
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to necessarily talk about the major risks because that's something that goes into the realm of the registered dietitian. What I can speak about within my scope of practice is that poor nutrition usually ends up, where some of those habits that you create, over the years, they basically come back to haunt you, later on. Poor nutrition can usually sometimes show up in a person's teeth, because it's where, dental issues end up having a problem as far as with chewing. As you get older, you may notice, that there is a problem with swallowing. And with something like that, that's usually where a registered dietitian will then refer you over to other specialists and such. But it's where poor nutrition is basically not getting the balanced and varied kind of nutrients that would be able to keep you healthy all throughout your life.
We've prepared in advance a couple of typical, maybe atypical lunch meals. If you could pass those two down here. So here we have two lunches, lunch A and lunch B. So lunch A is a bowl of ramen soup, a ham and cheese sandwich with mayonnaise on white bread, half a chocolate bar, 5 cookies, and a glass of regular cola soda. Well, let's talk about lunch B briefly. What you've got there is a slice of whole grain bread with peanut butter, chopped lettuce salad, some apple slices, a banana, and a cup of coffee with milk and sugar. So if you could talk about version A first and what's good or not so good about it, or what you would suggest, and then option B. And
All right. Well, what I do see first off is a couple of particular nutrients, one that's very present and one that's not so present. One of the nutrients is salt. Believe it or not, you actually do need salt. You just don't need a certain amount, over a certain amount. And this is where it ends up having quite a bit of salt because of the ramen noodles. This is a processed food item, so it's going to have salt as a preservative in there. And you want to go ahead and take into account how much salt that you're eating throughout the day. The thing that I see where it's not so much here is fiber. Okay, you do need fiber throughout the day through non-starchy vegetables, and what that does is that it helps you feel full. Yeah, and then over here for lunch B, this one, it does have quite a bit of fiber because of the fresh fruits. Also, a good amount of fiber as far as with the whole grain bread. Incidentally, whole wheat bread and peanut butter makes what's called a complete protein. This ends up being nutritionally the same as animal proteins. So this ends up being a good vegetarian option, right here. But this one, it ends up being a little bit more balanced because you get a little more variety in there. And more importantly, you have moderation. Much of what, nutrition and dietetics these days has is trying to have variety, trying to have moderation, and trying to have balance. And this shows a little bit better, with all of three of those concepts. Once you have one meal down, it's a matter of taking it as far as all 3 meals in a given day, all of your meals throughout a week. Because even though all of this stuff, looks really good and everything, there's no reason why you can't take, say, like this chocolate and have yourself a nice little treat. And that's an important thing. Many dietitians and many nutrition professionals do not want to take away foods. We want to go ahead and try and include all different kinds of foods to make all of the eating experiences enjoyable throughout the week.
great advice. Elizabeth, I want to thank you for being here today, sharing this information, and also thank you for your volunteer efforts as a VSO with the group in your area.
Yeah,
It's
thank
been
you.
a real pleasure.
This is a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Welcome back to the show, and we have Jeff and Shauna back on the stage. Welcome back, Jeff and Shauna.
Thank you.
So we want to turn our attention towards prevention. We want to now give our audience a little bit of a better understanding of how to keep themselves from becoming a victim of a scam. And before we do, we have a quick question here from Linda on Facebook. Thank you so much, Linda. And it's not too late. If you have a question or a comment from our audience, please submit it. And Linda wants to know about scams regarding veterans' home loans. Veterans' home loans is a home loan guarantee to the veteran, to the lender. The VA itself does not offer a home loan to the veteran. The VA is not a lender. So are you guys familiar with the home loan process?
They just guarantee a conventional loan through a conventional bank, and you get certain benefits with that. You may get no down or low down, and you may not have to pay and you don't have to pay PMI. So there are some benefits that the federal government guarantees,
right.
But they don't guarantee the loan. They don't guarantee any sort of protection against foreclosure. They don't provide the loan.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Jeff, Shauna, anything to add to the conversation on?
Well, I would say to be on the lookout because scam artists are there everywhere, and don't be pressured. Do research.
Yeah.
Check with friends.
So just because they have the VA logo on their home mortgage brochure doesn't mean that it in fact is a VA provided loan.
Well, many times legitimate enterprises, they won't be pressuring you. This whole thing, you've got to do something in a hurry.
Yeah.
That's what you want to avoid, is signing something away, especially something as big as a home.
Okay. Yeah.
And the only thing I'd offer is, of course, CalVet has home loans.
Absolutely.
Where the state of California is the mortgage company.
Very important.
So we are backing the loan. We are the lender.
Right.
And we will work with veterans to make sure that they stay in their homes to the best of our ability, even if they get a little behind in their payments.
And CalVet does not.
That's a whole different piece of
Their intent is not to profit from the loan.
Absolutely
So they're going to
not.
get a veteran into a product that's going to be in their best interest.
Absolutely.
I wanted to add one more resource.
Yeah.
So HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, they fund nonprofits throughout the country to provide homeowner counseling to people, and it's
okay.
free. It's a lot like the CVSO, but
Okay.
it's on the housing side. So you can
Okay.
also get help kind of figuring out what loan is right for you through those groups. And you
Through
can go
HUD
That's
through the
great.
HUD website. Yeah, so if you go on the HUD website, you can look at the various nonprofits in your state.
So let's shift the focus now towards prevention. We talked about what a loan looks like, sounds like. We even talked about how they apply specifically to veterans' benefits, and we even heard from Justin and how it affected him. What are some of the basic tools, and what are some of the more maybe street-level common sense tools that you've learned over the years to help veterans prevent from becoming scammed?
Well, check all of your resources, the agencies you all represent. You want to go with known quantities. Don't find these off of the wood stuff kind of, and be just very, very careful that the bad guys will do things like smurf a company, that they will actually take over and have a website that looks just like the real deal.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so
They'll
you
use
use the term
logos.
Smurf,
They'll even put the address down on the bottom of the website, or they'll put some sort of official-looking disclaimer, so it looks like it's coming from an official source.
What are some key indicators that it's not a real website, or that it's not a real document coming through the mail?
Well, you'd have to just do your due diligence, follow up, make phone calls, do your research.
Okay.
That we've had, or the companies have, somebody's borrowed almost everything from a real company, setting up their fake company, and it's when they follow up with a phone call, then the company says, no, this is us. That's not us.
And it's a cliche, but it's honest to goodness true. If it's too good to be true, it usually is. If it just sounds like, and the problem is we all run into times in our lives when we're needy, when we need things. We need it, whether it be help, finances, support, whatever it is that we need, and that's not a bad thing. So when somebody's offering us help in that time of need, we tend to become a target.
Right, a little bit maybe more trusting. And you said earlier, Shauna, that there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Right, yeah. A lot of scammers will go to places that seniors trust, and that's not just the local Denny's where seniors hang out, but also the senior centers. So they'll go to senior centers and they will provide free lunch and free programming for the seniors. And the problem with that is that the seniors go there so often, they've really created a community that they feel safe there. And often they feel that the senior center has vetted whoever is presenting to them, and that's rarely the case.
So prevention cannot just be an individual level. We can actually say that agencies can have a responsibility in preventing. So our senior centers, our organizations, maybe our VFWs can be a little bit more aware of who they're inviting in and who they're providing validity to.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And also, I think one of the common things that a scammer will do is tell you not to share this with anybody else. This is just for you. Don't tell anybody else you're doing it, because they don't want you to get the information from anybody else, and or you'll lose the benefit if you share it with anybody else specifically for you. And I think that's another common way that you can detect that this may not be the right thing, because if it's a public benefit, it benefits you, it should benefit everybody.
Jeff, in your brochure there, and Kevin's got it, it mentions in the brochure not to provide any contact information unless you initiate the contact. Can you say a little bit more about that as a technique to prevent scams?
Well, anything where it's an unsolicited contact to you, be very, very suspicious. They're calling you saying, I need this information. Like your bank's not going to ask you, or a government agency's not going to ask you for your date of birth, your social security number on the phone.
Now, is it standard protocol for a government agency to contact you by phone? I've heard certain things about, if the IRS was really contacting you, if the Postal Service was really contacting you, would it be a phone call?
Well, it might, but they would follow up with a letter. There would be some other steps, and it would be very specific to something where some of these calls are very generic, and like I said, it just depends on the imagination of the scammer.
Actually, it's usually the other way around, if I may. Usually the IRS will send out a letter first, and then if you don't respond, they may follow up with a phone call so they can reference the letter that they've already sent you. They were not going to call you up and tell you that you owe them money. It's just, you're not going to call you up and tell you to go down to CVS and get a green card and send them cash. They're just not going to do it.
Now, A little bit more specific to veterans. What's the best thing a veteran can do in terms of reaching out to a trusted source to get help with a veteran benefit if they feel that someone's trying to scam them?
I think the first point of contact should always be the local county veteran service office.
Yeah.
There are a lot of groups out there who are partnering with both insurance agents and attorneys, and they are smart, so they've managed to gain the trust of people in the community by becoming nonprofits. So a lot of people say, well, I can trust this place because it's a nonprofit, it's obviously not financial services. That's just not true. The people that are the very best at scamming seniors have already managed to incorporate as nonprofits and send out volunteers and do what I call as a Trojan horse kind of scam, where they'll send out the volunteers, but the people controlling the volunteers and the message are the people making money, and it's generally people from financial services.
Now, a little bit on the cleanup side. Someone has unfortunately fallen victim to a scam. They've provided some of their personal information. They've given up some of their personal money, whether it be a small amount of money or a large amount of money. How can they stop that now? What is the first thing they should do to keep that scam from becoming even more of a burden to them?
Just not respond anymore directly to the scammer and report it. Get authorities involved.
Okay.
And even as he was saying earlier, that they'll tell you don't do it. Do it. Pick up the phone, make a call to the local DA's office. If it involves the mail, contact postal inspectors.
Absolutely. And if it's legitimate, that's never going to hurt you. It's never going to get you in trouble.
Okay. Anything last that we haven't talked about tonight in regards to veteran scams that you'd like to share for our audience?
We've seen a proliferation of what I call bogus designations. People going around putting many, many letters on their business cards saying that they're certified senior advisors or senior real estate specialists. Okay. And what these are marketing credentials. And so what I tell seniors to do is to be very careful about what they see on business cards and whether they trust that. If you see someone who says CSA on their business card, it doesn't mean that they're a CFP or a tax planner. It means that they've taken an online course that taught them how to sell things. And so just to be very careful about things like that.
Business cards can be made anywhere. I mean, would someone who shows up from the post office, would you expect them to have some type of credential or something to distinguish between a business card and what's on a business card and something to authenticate that that's a real person?
Well, all government agencies provide credentials for their employees.
Okay.
And just again, as was also said before, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
And just take a second look. One of the things the scammers try to do is the pressure.
I want to share real quickly, and we're running out of time. Recently, a daughter of a veteran contacted me to say, hey, this gentleman called my mother saying he's from the VA, and he's going to come out and talk to her about her finances. This doesn't sound right to me. Is this real? Fortunately, it was. But we were able to communicate with the Department of Veterans Affairs to ensure that the person was an official VA representative. So
she did the right thing.
She did the right
called
thing.
and asked.
She called
That's
the County
important
Veteran
thing.
Service Office. I'm glad you mentioned that. We're out of time. Great conversation. Really appreciate the two of you and all of our other guests being on the show tonight. And we hope you've enjoyed our show tonight. Before we go, we want to direct you to a few events and resources. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel by searching for Veterans Voices of Contra Costa County.
Did you know that the Post Office is seeking veterans to fill their ranks as post office inspectors? This arm of the Post Office serves as the federal law enforcement branch with jurisdiction in all criminal matters concerning postal-related laws. Visit postalinspectors.uspis.gov to learn more about scam protection and to apply. Learn more about the Veterans Benefits Protection Act by visiting the Institute on Aging or call 415-750-4111 to connect with a client service specialist. Are you a veteran who would like an opportunity for your voice to be heard? Well, our A Veterans Voice segment is designed to provide space for veterans to share anything they want about themselves, poetry, story, or maybe a piece of art. Our program wants to support you by inviting you into our A Veterans Voice segment. Please connect with us by emailing veteransvoices@contracostatv.org.
To rewatch tonight's episode, check back on our homepage later this week or check your cable provider's schedule for rebroadcast times. Our next live broadcast will be Monday, July 16th at 7 p.m. Be sure to tune in. This is Veterans Voices of Contra Costa County signing off, wishing you all a relaxing evening. For our veterans out there, thank you for your service.